I'll preface this by saying I don't have the best relationship with my father, and his partner Blair is a big part of the reason why. While I don't hate her, she is extremely obnoxious and childish. She's also horrible with boundaries. It feels like any time someone tells her no, she hears maybe. She's been like this for as long as I've known her, but it's become harder to deal with since I had children, so I try to keep some distance. Anyway, Blair and my father are planning on going to Orlando in July. About a month ago, she asked whether me, my husband and our kids, 7M and 3F, wanted to join them. I thanked her for inviting us, but said no, because we're planning on going next January and there's a pretty big chance I'll have to work in July. Also, and I didn't say this to her, we've been to Orlando with her before and my husband has stated he'd rather eat glass than do it again. A week later, Blair told me they were getting their tickets and asked me whether I was sure we wouldn't join them. I said I was. Days after that, my sister called me. Blair had told her I was thinking about going while inviting her and her boyfriend. I, once again, told Blair we wouldn't go. Finally, Blair asked me if I'd be okay with her and my father taking my kids to Orlando. I said no, because we're not even in the same hemisphere as the US and I wouldn't let my young children travel to a different country without me or my husband. Last week, my sister babysat my kids while my husband and I went out. While we were gone, Blair visited to drop off a gift she and my father had bought for my husband. She also took the opportunity to tell my children we were all going to Orlando in July. My daughter didn't care about it much at first. I think she didn't really register it, but my son got very excited right away. He kept talking about how much he wanted to go to Disney and asking about the trip. And after watching her big brother like that, my daughter jumped on the bandwagon with him. It was both heartbreaking and infuriating to watch them like that. I called Blair and said she had two options: either she told my kids she'd lied and they weren't going to Orlando, or I did. I added that if she told them, she'd have the opportunity to apologize and explain herself, but if I did, I would not do that for her. Blair chose to call my children herself. I kept the phone on speaker to make sure she was apologizing, explaining everything, and making it clear we wouldn't go to Orlando in July. Both my children, especially my son, were upset, but my husband and I had a talk with them and managed to cheer them up. My father texted me yesterday. He said that he didn't appreciate the way I dealt with this. Blair is still upset and thinks my kids are mad at her now. He wants me to apologize or at least try to get my kids to forgive her, but I don't see why I should. She was the one who lied to my children, and I'm not responsible for Blair's feelings. We're still on this back and forth, and I can tell neither of us is particularly proud about this. Comment 1. NTA. Blair tried the whole force the children to badger their parents to go to Orlando trick and it blew up in her face. She knew what she was doing. She did it on purpose to put you in a bind, thinking that you wouldn't want to disappoint your children and she would get what she wanted. Good for you for seeing through that whole charade and standing your ground. She will think twice about using that ploy in the future. As far as your dad, you can let him know that lying to your children will be a timeout in the future. Comment 2. NTA. Blair crossed a very clear boundary. You have no reason to apologize at all. I wouldn't have even given her the opportunity to explain herself. So low of her father to think either of them have the right to ask for an apology after that. Losing my temper over bone broth being added to a soup. My girlfriend, A, 24F, and I, 23M, are ovo-lactose vegetarian and have been for approximately 6 months or so because she developed a sudden involuntary negative reaction to meat and some animal products. At best she'll spit out the offending bite and rinse her mouth out, and at worst she'll get sick almost immediately. She's gone to her primary care and is seeing a therapist, but we have yet to know why she reacts this way. Any meat, from mammal to poultry to fish, triggers this reaction in her if she consumes it. Even sufficiently meaty vegan products that imitate the taste and texture of meat too well can set it off in her. I opted to cut meat out of my diet as well, considering I do most of the cooking and it's easier to make us both the same meals rather than worry about cross-contamination. I've grown to prefer some of the meatless alternatives of our normal fare, and seeing her unabashedly enjoy my food makes me feel warm and content. One of the worst ingredients that triggers a reaction in her is bone broth. I used to drink and cook with it beforehand, but nowadays I use mushroom broth and I don't notice much of a difference except when shopping, as it tends to be in stock at my local grocer even when the meat alternatives aren't. Sometimes I even switch out instant ramen seasoning for mushroom bouillon base with dried veggies if I'm feeling lazy and want something quick. We have a shared friend, B, 24M, who invites us and a few others, including C, 23M, over occasionally for dinner and a hangout. He's a much better cook than I am and he invited us over group chat recently, even offering to send a few recipes he'd been considering making by us to make sure he could accommodate. A and I looked over the recipes B sent, and a minestrone recipe caught our eye, especially because it's been soup weather and I hadn't had proper minestrone in ages. We told him what we thought, and he admitted it's what he would have chosen too. He sent a time and date to the group chat and all seemed well. The day rolls around and we arrive a little later than everyone else. We get settled in and we serve ourselves some soup before sitting at the table. I only had a single spoonful before immediately making a beeline for the bathroom. As soon as the bathroom door slammed shut, C shrunk in his seat and admitted to adding bone broth to the minestrone while B was greeting us as he felt it needed the flavor and didn't think A was really vegetarian. This is where I may be the a-hole. I laid into C, calling him, among other things, a fucking idiot for tampering with food someone else made and a piece of shit for doing it knowing full well it was supposed to be vegetarian and making my girlfriend sick. I told him I never wanted to see his face again and left for home with A as soon as she got out of the bathroom and had rinsed her mouth out. Now the group chat is in shambles. A says she appreciates me standing up for her but feels bad for causing a scene. Comment 1. NTA. A recent article talked about an increase in meat allergies. It's called alpha-gal syndrome, AGS, and it's caused by a bite from the Lone Star tick. I think someone else mentioned it also. Comment 2. NTA, and you're a good for not only sticking up for her but also changing your eating habits to help support her. Did she have COVID prior to this meat aversion? Asking because my aunt had it 4 years ago, and even the smell of pork makes her nauseated now, and this is a woman who'd buy extra hams at Christmas and Easter so she'd never run out. My best friend can no longer eat anything with peanut butter, which is sadly her favorite food. All the other side effects have worn off, but the specific food aversions remain. Story 3, telling my wife she's an adult and responsible for waking up on her own. My wife and I had an argument this morning about me not waking her up on time to get ready for work. Some context, we have a 5-month-old baby boy so it can be difficult sometimes to get ready in the morning. Anyway, she had the opportunity to get ready about an hour before me, but decided to sleep in a little longer with our son. Our son doesn't sleep well on his own so he will sleep if being held. I said alright, that's fine, but I'm going to go ahead and get ready. It takes me about 30 minutes to get ready, shave, shower, clothes, hair, etc. Once I got ready, I had to get our son's milk ready for daycare. I'm at the sink thawing out his frozen milk when she comes into the kitchen upset that I let her sleep in that long. She kept asking why didn't I come up to make sure she was awake. She has alarms set on her phone to go off every 5 minutes. Normally I would go upstairs to the bedroom to get ready and check if she's awake, but I already had clothes downstairs from some laundry I hadn't taken up yet so I got dressed downstairs. I assumed she would already be awake from her alarms, but she kept insisting I should have taken more initiative to wake her up. I told her that she's an adult and that I'm not responsible for making sure she's awake all of the time. She said that what I said was mean, but I was just being real. I offered to finish getting our son ready and drop him off at daycare and let her have more time to get ready, but she just does this thing where she refuses my help no matter how much I try to make the situation better. I don't know if there's something postpartum she's going through that I'm not understanding. I'm genuinely confused by why this became such a big issue. Edit, just to clarify to everyone, our son does sleep on his own in the bassinet, just not for very long. We try not to co-sleep, especially since we are beginning to transition him to the crib. We are very aware of the dangers on co-sleeping, but we try our best not to make it a habit. When you're an exhausted parent functioning with little to no sleep, you don't realize it when you're dozing off. I apologize, I made it seem he's always glued to us. As for the comments about night routine, yes, I am up whenever my son wakes up for his feedings. I do not get a full night of rest and haven't gotten one since he's been born, so we both are equally tired. I do not leave all of the responsibility of the night feedings to my wife. Comment 1. You are not responsible for waking her up, but she is exhausted. If you are not helping with the baby at night, you should be. I can also see her being madder about you not waking her up if you get to sleep all night and all the baby care is on her overnight. I feel like that info about nighttime baby care makes a big difference in this. Comment 2. Yeah, I'd like to know what the nighttime routine is. Who initially tries to put baby to sleep, who gets up when baby cries and soothes them / feeds them / changes them, is she doing a middle of the night pump or feed? All kind of determine how this looks for OP. Comment 3. YTA, you're sleeping through the night while she is awake doing childcare you're neglecting. Grow up. If you notice your partner has slept through alarms and needs to be up for a commitment, wake them up. Judgment would be different if you did not have a newborn, and she said I'm no longer using alarms and expect you to wake me up. Story 4. Walking out of my lecture because the professor mocked a topic related to my culture? So I'm 19 and a first-year university student. Last week in my anthropology class, the professor was lecturing on different belief systems and made a joke about ancestor veneration, saying it was like having dead relatives watching you like spiritual Netflix. Most of the class laughed, but I was silent, stoned cause I don't think it's funny at all. I'm half Japanese and in my family honoring ancestors is something taken seriously. We visit graves, make offerings, and participate in traditions like Obon. It's something I grew up with, and hearing it reduced to a joke made me really uncomfortable. I didn't make a scene and just quietly left after that, and later on, the professor emailed me saying my behavior was disruptive and I should have brought concerns to office hours. I responded explaining my perspective, but now I'm wondering if I overreacted. Some classmates support me, others say I'm too sensitive. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I just didn't feel respected, you know. Comment 1. NTA, walking out silently is in no way disruptive, and there are many reasons to do that in a lecture. Your lecturer needs to grow thicker skin if he gets upset every time a woman silently leaves a lecture. Raising it during office hours, after his tantrum, was exactly what you did. Also, an anthropology lecturer should know better than to mock other cultures. I'd be making a complaint about this, especially after the way he dealt with your concern. Comment 2. There may be some language or cultural differences here, but I fail to see disrespect in his comment. Describing a belief system that ancestors are watching their descendants by using a simile such as like watching spiritual Netflix isn't disrespectful in and of itself. So many people in here are so quick to be offended and demand apologies. There's nothing wrong with walking out of a lecture, though. So NTA. Extra, kicking my maid of honor out of my wedding because she wore a white dress that I picked out? So, I, 27F, got married last weekend. My best friend, Anna, 28F, has been my ride or die since high school, and I asked her to be my maid of honor. I wanted everyone in the wedding party to feel confident and beautiful, so I let each of my bridesmaids pick their own dress within a certain color palette, earthy neutrals. Anna sent me a few options and asked for my opinion. One was a kind of off-white, cream-colored satin dress. I hesitated, but it was technically within the palette, and I didn't want to be a bridezilla. I even said, it's a little close to white, but if you love it, go for it. Fast forward to the wedding day. The dress photographs way whiter than it looked in the pictures. My family and some guests start making comments like I can't believe she's wearing white or she's trying to outshine the bride. I was already stressed, and hearing all this just made it worse. Mid-reception, I pulled Anna aside and asked her to change or at least put on a shawl or something. She was pissed and said I was being insecure and ridiculous. I ended up asking her to leave. She stormed out and hasn't spoken to me since. Now mutual friends are saying I overreacted, especially since I approved the dress. I feel terrible but also humiliated.